They actually say that they are going to inculcate Donald Trump and the term fascism as synonyms.
Hey everybody, this is Kelly Jackson, and I am still not canceled. This is the show where we question everything, and especially the narrative. Today, what I wanted to do was I wanted to review a little snippet of some video from, I believe it's Melissa Tate. I think she was with, I want to say she was with Dennis Prager. She was with Prager, I think. I could be wrong, but as somebody who was a member of our local chapter of Moms for Liberty and someone who actually attended school board meetings and was classified as a domestic terrorist for sticking up for wanting to have books in our schools that not only are age appropriate, but do not sort of try to shape the little minds of our kids to have specific perceptions of people and things and the world that lean in a direction that we as parents are not comfortable with, we as Americans are not comfortable with. And I can tell you based on what she says here, I personally know that there is a curriculum in my local school district that is loaded with CRT. It's used in our my county's elementary school level, and it most certainly qualifies as CRT. Even though here in Tennessee, we passed a law that basically said it's an anti-CRT law, that CRT is not allowed or it's illegal to have CRT in our educational materials. It's still there. It's still being taught in our elementary schools. And so I wanted to share this little snippet, soundbite with you, because essentially this is the kind of thing we're seeing even here in red states in Tennessee. So let's get this on the stage and I can share it with you. And then let's just get this started. I'll just read what it says. Insane. Major woke alert. Scholastic, the largest book publisher for K through 12 books, just published anti-ICE books, including a story about a Mexican girl who comes to reclaim America as stolen, which they misspelled, from the native. What's worse is President Trump is referred to as a fascist in the books. And I will say the books that they're using in our school district don't utilize that strong of language, but it's definitely there. And I'll just say we have progressives, even in red Tennessee, that and in fact, some Republicans even sort of guffawing at us for pointing out some of this stuff because it's meant to be subtle. It's meant to be not meant to be obvious. It's meant to be subtle so that people don't quite realize what it is exactly that the kids are reading. And if you say anything, then you're sort of viewed in a negative way, right? But let's go ahead and listen to what it is she has to say.
25, President Trump just gets elected. Basically, nothing gets started yet. They come out with an agenda. Page 18, if anybody is able to look this up, is about opposing ICE. This is like right away. He just got elected. They already started planning how to oppose ICE. Then it is actually connected to what I'm holding here. This is from Scholastic, and this is information.
Let me just tell you, let me stop really quickly. Our curriculum company, like Scholastic, the people that form these companies they come from academia, right? They come from academia where we know that there are specific goals and agendas within academia to help students formulate ideas that run counterintuitive to what we've always been taught. I'm Gen X, right? So what we've always been taught in school is to have American pride of our country and to be American. We do know that America is a melting pot. We have all different cultures, but essentially what the goal of being an American always was that we would all sort of coalesce around this idea of Americanness. It doesn't matter where you came from, what language you speak. It doesn't matter what your culture is. We know people are going to carry their cultures here. However, what we want everyone to do is believe in this grand experiment of being an American. That should be the number one priority, is that we are all Americans. We find this commonality and we find this common ground, and we can connect with one another and we can identify with one another on the premise of being Americans. So that is something that is being completely, I feel, based on my observation and things that I've seen with my kids in our school districts here, even, and in other parts of the country where we've lived and our kids have been in those schools, that emphasis on Americanness is definitely present in the same way that it was 50 years ago, 30 years ago, even 20 years ago.
About American immigration laws. And if anybody, again, wants to look it up, we'll link it. But it basically teaches you how to essentially defy ICE and reuse these terms of immigration and basically say that these are undocumented immigrants. And I want to take this to the next level and show how further down the line they go from an agenda like this one, where they use the term Donald Trump with fascism. They actually say that they are going to inculcate Donald Trump and the term fascism as synonyms. So people can look it up. We'll link to this. And down the line, you create these toolkits, which I'd like us to explain what these toolkits are. The NEA will work with book publishers to make sure that the teachers have the path of least resistance to actually teach what it is. And
the NEA, just so you know, is the National Education Association. These are all, what do you call them, NGOs or organizations that foster and essentially create all of the materials that are then proliferated throughout our public schools, which our kids spend the majority of their day and the majority of their time at. They spend more time in school than they do with their own families. So this is something we know. Let's keep going.
This book is called Land of the Cranes. The book basically describes that there are many people who come here from other countries with the attempt to destroy America, not to live the American dream, not e pluribus unum, not Ellis Island, not the reason that my parents and many of the parents who are watching came here to the United States to be an American, but actually to change America and conquer America. So much so that in some case scenarios, some people who've come from Mexico have used the term Reconquista. Okay, you can look it up in Peter Schweitzer's book. Now, I read this book and I said, wow, this is really shocking. I'm not sure that I can believe it. It's probably a fringe group. And even if there is a Reconquista movement coming in from Mexico into the United States, it's very likely that, at least on our side, we are rejecting it. We are defending our own country. What are the chances that in America's education system, we are actually inculcating, brainwashing kids with the concept of Reconquista? There's just no way. There's no way, Ryan, that our schools would be teaching this, right? This is why I'm holding this book, and I'd like you to explain this to me. So this book is a Scholastic Gold book. People can find it on Amazon if they don't want to give them the money. They can just read the description. In essence, the book is about a child who identifies as the child of Aztec roots. Let me remind everybody how peaceful, loving the Aztecs were. Okay, so
child sacrifice, things like that. Historically, that's what she's referring to.
She comes to the United States of America with her family and obviously goes through the struggles. She lives in Los Angeles and she realized that this land does not belong to the United States of America. Her grandpa teaches her that this land actually was taken, stolen from her family and their heritage, and therefore they have to come here and essentially Reconquista. Why should they really learn English? Why should they actually assimilate? No, they should not. They, in fact, should grab the land and make sure that they realize their true potential by taking the land back. One more point here, and I'm going to let you comment on this. Page 35 in this book, I remind mommy, this is the land of the cranes. Okay, so the cranes is used synonymously with the children of the Aztecs. I remind mommy, this is the land of the cranes. We have wings that can soar above wall. So 2025, President Trump.
I don't think that there needs to be any explanation of that, that we can soar above the walls. There you have it. That is the kind of thing that is proliferating our public education system. We found this out, during COVID when our kids brought the Chromebooks home, and parents really should be aware. I know that all through my children's education, especially in the last 5 years, I've been extremely involved in understanding because I sent my kids to public school because I can't afford private school. A lot of parents can't afford private. So I sent my kids to public school. And what you do when you utilize a public school, which, by the way, in our state, our public schools here in this county have apparently been rated number 1. We've lived in 5 states. So quite frankly, of the 5 states we've lived in, this is not the best public school system my kids have been in, but it's the best in our state. And even with that, you hear things about, like, where I live. Oh, I hear the schools there are like Christian schools, Christian private schools in other places. That's simply not the case. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And you have to be diligent, and you have to understand, and you have to watch for the patterns, because if you're not aware and you don't watch for the patterns, they sneak up on you. And you can definitely engage with the schools in a way that is effective without being, because I never went into the schools lobbing bombs, screaming and yelling at people. That's not what I did at all. What I did is I tried to establish relationships with the administrators there, the ones that I knew I could reason with. And then I just sometimes would put my foot down and let them know my child will not be participating in A, B, or C. And that is kind of how you have to be. If you're going to keep your children in a public school like mine were, if you're not going to utilize a homeschool, or you're not able to put them in private school, it's completely doable, at least in my case with my kids, to be in public school. So essentially, that's where I want to leave this, just to make you aware that they now have public school materials that refer to President Trump, as essentially implication is that he's a fascist. And they talk about ICE. We had a similar situation in Williamson County about a book that it was a book about Ruby Bridges. And there was a word used in that book that we thought was inappropriate for children to be exposed to. And so we, of course, objected to that book, and we were painted as basically racist. So, it doesn't, I guess the final point with this would be that nobody should be able to intimidate you into doing the right thing and what you know is the right thing for your kids. Always stand up for your kids. Always be a mama bear, and always stand up for your kids. That's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to share with you in this little episode of Still Not Canceled. I am Kelly Jackson. And again, question everything, especially the narrative. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.